Let's start then with the game this weekend. It's been fine margins so far this season. Is it about just maintaining a positive mindset and looking at this as the next big opportunity to get the season up and running?
100%. I agree with what you've said there. I think it has been right the way through, apart from maybe last 20 minutes at Chelsea. I think that's been the case for our sort of a year and a bit in the Premier League, and I'm delighted it has been tight. I'm not delighted in terms of the results that we've had this year. Of course I'm not. I understand that they've not been where we would have liked them to be, but I believe, and I think there's no reason for me not to, in terms of watching all the games and all the bits and pieces that comes with the games, that they've been tight games. And I think listening to other people that opinions I respect in the game, they've said the same, but it doesn't ease the pain of the position that we're in and something that we're desperate to affect.
Where are you at with injuries? Could Lys Mousset be back, and could he give you a bit of an attacking spark? Yeah,
he's been a huge miss for us. He was outstanding since his transfer last season. He's a game changer. He's got raw pace, and he's something that comes from him out the ordinary. And I think we're looking for game changers in our group. I think one of my criticism of my team is that we've not taken big chances and big moments. We've not delivered on that at crucial times, and we've not had game changers that change tight games from losses into draws and draws into wins. And I think Lys certainly comes into that category, and delighted to have him back.
Have you done anything different with the players this week, just to try and maybe change the cycle a little bit?
No, we believe in what we're doing. It's worked for myself personally for a long time. We're always assessing and analysing, but we have to believe, as you talked about at the start of the interview, that the next game is the one that it turns around. And I keep saying it. It's a favourite phrase of mine. I don't think a wrecking ball is needed to it. It might be if we were all over the place, and I kept saying if we were getting beat 3, 4 and 5, and there was a huge amount in the game, but. I've analysed the game on Sunday. I've analysed the game where we played West Ham last year. Obviously, we're in different situations, but I think West Ham have definitely improved under David Moyes with the season that he's had with them. And it was a tight game that night at Bramall Lane, full Bramall Lane in January, and it was another tight game. And I believe, if Sheffield United, if we'd have won that game on Sunday, I don't think it would have been a smash and grab. I don't think people would have been scratching their heads and said, "How have they won that game?" I think they said they've won a tight game. We've lost a tight game. We have to go into the next game believing, and it's going to be tough, as we always expect. And another team that's desperate to affect their position, a promoted side, and some good players and a fabulous manager in Slav. And they'll be desperate for the 3 points just as much as we are. But it's, you have to stick to your beliefs and stick to your principles. You're always looking to see where you can get an edge, and if things need to change a little bit. But belief is key to our quest for our first 3 points of the season.
We know the fans will be returning next month, but not in tier 3 areas. Have you got a view on that? Is it fair that some clubs have fans while others don't?
I think us in the north, funny looking at that map, wasn't it? Shock. I think us in the north, we're fully expecting us to be in the old tier 3, as they kindly put us in. I won't get into the politics of all that too much. I've got to say, I think from a sporting integrity point, I'm delighted that supporters of the way forward and looking to get supporters back into grounds. I've got to say, I do believe it should all be at the same time from the sporting integrity part of it, and other people other people will disagree and be delighted to get fans back. I'm a huge believer and can't wait for that to happen. I think I've talked openly and honestly about it from our point of view as a football club, in terms of, a perfect storm last season in terms of players playing at the top of their ability, taking key moments, not too many injuries, and certainly the effect of our punters and what they gave to our football club. So always the game is a different game with supporters back, but I do believe it really should happen at the same time for everybody. And but we have to. It's something we have to overcome in the next couple of weeks. Obviously, I think Southampton and Brighton are in Tier 2 in the south, and us in the north. We're in Tier 3, and it's something we're going to have to get on with.
Final one from me, Chris. Sad news this week about the passing of Diego Maradona. Can we get your thoughts on that? And I'm sure you've seen the story that I think it was 42 years ago. He almost signed for Sheffield United. Yeah,
I've known that for a long time. Obviously, with my history with the football club, it was in and around the early years of me supporting Sheffield United. Sort of, when I was like sort of 9, 10, 11, in and around there. Sort of my love grew up for the football club, and I mean, I was Danny Bergara. He played a big part of influence in me as reserve team manager at Sheffield United at the time in his second spell. So I knew all about Danny's connections in South America, being Uruguayan and his passion for the game, and obviously knew the situation that we were close to signing Diego Maradona. But I think it's possibly par for the course as us as a football club that we miss out on the greatest player of all time. We didn't get a bad one in terms of Alex Sabella, and I know Pedro Verde signed for us in around that period as well. So, influence through Danny and Ari Aslam in that period of what they tried to do in around 78 and the World Cup, which was obviously a fabulous World Cup as well. I personally believe he obviously there's a lot of talk regarding Messi and Ronaldo, but I think the era that he played in, the protection that he wasn't afforded as a player, the brutality of the defenders at the time, the state of the pitches at the time. I think Gary Lineker talked about it in the World Cup in terms of the pitch when they played England, and he scored obviously the fabulous goal. And I think that obviously the influence of sort of Argentina in around that period, 78, I personally, the old Le Coq Sportif Argentinian shirt that a few people used to wear at the time, I had one of them. I got rid of it a few years later, as you can imagine, but without going too political again, but fabulous footballer, right up there, and obviously a disappointing day for the whole of the footballing world.
Cheers, Chris. All the best this weekend.
Cheers, Tim.
Hi, Chris. It's Andy from Radio Sheffield here. You all right?
Yeah, good, Andy.
How much of a fillip is it then to get Mousse back, whatever role he plays tomorrow?
Huge. I think you saw the effect of John Fleck on the team on Sunday. Everybody around him. Obviously, you won't be. Have that ability to see the effect that John had in the sort of the 2 weeks before, and when we were getting him ready for first team action. But it's been the same with Lees. He's lifted the place, and of course we want all our big players back, and he's certainly a big player for us.
You mentioned about taking big moments, and look, that hasn't been more stark this season than McBurney's misses. And he's not scored yet, clearly. How's he handling that?
He's okay. He understands it's the life and times of a centre forward in the Premier League. I think obviously the run that we had in the previous 3 games, chances for our forwards were at a premium, but we were still created as we talked about, and we certainly created more against West Ham. I thought it was a decent enough performance, but fine lines. And as I said, Ollie smacks that in, and it goes in on the underside of the bar, or his first chance. I thought his header was a decent header as well, but he understands he has to get into those positions. He understands he has to take that responsibility on, and as I said, the life and times of a centre forward. That's why them boys play in that position. the glory that it receives and attracts when it's going well, and the criticism when it doesn't. But he's a strong character, as we all are. We have to take this on the chin and roll with the punches. But keep getting into those positions, and I'm sure it'll drop for him. And he's a good player. He had a decent first season in the Premier League. I think, sometimes we might get away from the fact that a lot of our players and the young players, they're experiencing Premier League football. Second season, they're not established, and they're fighting and trying to establish themselves. So they have to go through these periods, as we all have to do, and come out the other side. And I'm sure Ollie will.
Yeah, you and the players, I'm sure privately, clearly, certainly publicly, have always had a fairly sort of honest approach to dealing with situations. How important is that no one essentially gets the chance to hide, publicly or privately?
That's how it is, isn't it? It's this, as I keep saying, it's a lot worse situations than being a professional footballer or working for a fabulous club in the Premier League. And when it doesn't go well, we all feel it. I think you'll understand. I feel it with my connections, and the boys do, because they have to buy into what I'm about, and they have to buy into what the football club's about, which they have done. And we have to take these moments in our career and move with them, which they will do. We as we talked about in our week, we have a debrief and we look at things that we've done okay with during the game and things that we can be better with. Well, personally, don't think we're a million miles off, but I can't keep saying it. We have to affect what's in front of us, and we understand how bigger period of these games are in these next 10 games where we need to pick a result up. And we talked about wanting to do one against West Ham, and we didn't, and we have to move on to the next one pretty quickly. But we've had yet again another positive week, with Fleck having a good week with us, and Mousset. And I've got a caring group of players, which you would expect that to be the case with me as the manager. But they still believe, so they still believe, and they got to keep going, as we all have to do in this tough period of our careers.
Clearly, it's still relatively early stages in the season, but how important is it that you get a positive result against West Brom, if nothing else, to stick in with the teams that are also down there?
Well, of course. I mean, listen, let's cards on the table. How can I put this? I would say before a ball's kicked, there's 12 teams in the Premier League that would take 17th position. Should we accept 17th position as a newly promoted team? I think obviously there's a lot of talk last year from myself about we're not setting targets. I think with the start that we've had, and obviously the things that have gone against us that we can control, and the other things that have gone against us that we can't control, I'm being realistic. We're in a dogfight. We should be in a dogfight every year, really, from where the clubs come from and how we're trying to establish ourselves. So at this particular moment, I believe 10 clubs will take 17th position in an heartbeat and move on to the next season, and we're one of them. So we're in a dogfight. We have to keep in touch. We don't want that gap to grow, and we want to claw it back as quickly as possible, because if we do, then adds that belief and confidence to our play that I'm sure we'll kick on from that position. So pressure does mount. I understand that. I'm not precious about that. I'm not arrogant enough to think that we can come through that without any criticism of myself and the players. We understand that, but it's what happens on the park, and that's what we're looking to do on Saturday evening. We're looking to close the gap on the teams above us, and if we do that, then we've had a positive night and a positive result.
So what's your impression then from afar of West Brom's start to life in the Premier League?
It's a tough division, Andy. So they come up. The best two teams came up through the automatic positions, and West Bromwich Albion were one of them. As I keep saying, West Brom have been a team that spent what I should imagine a good 10, 12, 13 years out of 15 or 16 in the Premier League, and gain all the advantages that brings year in, year out. As I've said that about Fulham as well, who came up. So a lot of their players are you look at Livermore, you look at Bartley. They've obviously signed a couple of players, but there's a little bit of a turnaround in the team. But they're a Premier League club that dropped out of the Premier League and got back into the Premier League. So we're all after that positive start that we all crave, and but it's not that easy. It's not as easy just to say it. Oh well, let's get off to a good start. You've got to go and get the performances in and get the results. So, they've had some positive performances just as much as we have. Ours against Liverpool and Man City, in my opinion, we walked away with a couple of results in those two games. I think that would have been deserved, and they'll possibly look at the Manchester United and the Tottenham games similar, and Slav will be thinking the same. So, he's a football man just as much as I am. It's a tough game for both of us. We understand that, and one that's going to be tight. And you wouldn't expect anything else, Andy.
No, certainly not. Just finally from me, clearly the team news focus was on Moussa to begin with, but is everybody else okay ahead of this one?
There's an issue with Ender. Obviously, he missed out, so yet again we'll give him as much of an opportunity too. And we've got one other injury that obviously I won't publicise. That's touch and go for the weekend. So yeah, I know a lot of the managers have obviously talked about soft tissue injuries, but all these are contact injuries, which is, really unfortunate. This is not through bad practice up here at Shirecliffe or overuse or being carefree with players' welfare. These are really unfortunate injuries. Enders was an injury where it was a blocked tackle trying to keep the ball out of the back of net at Chelsea. John Flex was one where he's gone up for an header and landed heavily on his back. Lys Musset's was the same. Jack O'Connell's was the same. So the injuries that we have suffered really have been really unfortunate and lucky ones. We pride ourselves in having an healthy group, as you've seen. They're robust. They work extremely hard at the training ground, in the gym, in prep, but unfortunately sometimes the unfortunate ones like Ender, is something that you just have to deal with and get through that period. But hopefully, we'll look at Ender over the next 48 hours and the other one as well. And I think you understand that, as I said, sort of perfect storm for us. Sort of last year we had everybody really fit and available, and for us to start, picking up points. And getting a settled team or getting everybody back to where the standards that they can produce, really we need a full fit and healthy squad, and it's something that we've had to deal with this season that we didn't have to deal with last year.
No, brilliant. Best of luck tomorrow.
Cheers, Andy. Thank you.
Hi, Chris. You okay, mate?
Yeah, good. Thanks.
Good. I just wondered whether situations like this, it becomes more about your man management skills, because obviously the players know about the philosophy and how you want to play, but when times are tough, is this where those kind of skills come to the fore? And it was interesting last week where you had a chat with the players on the pitch before the game. Can you tell us about what was said there too?
No, just a different approach. So I felt, my presence on the pitch would have helped them, and I believe in a way it did. My support in and around them, just little reminders, Paul. The performance wasn't a terrible one from my point of view. So, but they're still the ones that still have to go out and play. So, I thought that was the right thing to do. So I think man management always plays a part, even in good times. Keeping players' feet on the ground and keeping in a steady place. And I think you have to do that when you're not getting the results as well, in terms of the belief in what has got me personally into this position, what's got this football club into this position, the players to produce their best performances. So it's a together thing from everybody, from myself, from the staff, to keep nice and calm. Still a lot of football to be played, we understand that, but I do understand that it's 9 games without a win, and it's certainly something that we didn't expect to happen. We have to deal with it and meet it head on and look to that 10th game to get a positive result.
What about the level of detail that you're going into at the moment to try and turn things around in your favour? Can you give us an insight as to what goes into the whole process behind the scenes?
I'm saying that, knowing what I'm about, I think you'll realise the level of detail and how I think about it. I'll not get away from that. I think about that it more than anything else in my life, because we've had good times, we've enjoyed good times, and I'm not enjoying it. I don't think anybody would expect me to join it. I've got a huge responsibility on my shoulders, and especially this being the football club. For me, it doesn't really mean it would have incredibly changed if I was managing somewhere else, because I believe I'm 100% committed to every job that I've taken on. But of course, it's with you all the time. I think football people will tell you that, and more so, when you're not getting the results. Of course, you're always looking, when you are getting results, to improve and what you need to do to keep that going, or to take it to the next level. But certainly in the situation that we are, we're looking at everything. We're looking from the tactical side of it, from the technical side of it, what we need to do to keep the players' spirits up, to be a positive environment that this place always has been and always will be as long as I'm here. The support that I need to give the players individually and as a group, the messages that I'm sending to them, the decisions that we're making. It's tough. The team is been a tough one to pick. I think with sort of this period and the results that we've got, we're not playing with the flow and the belief and the confidence that we have done in the past. And I think you look at players' performances, and I think I'm honest to say that some have not reached the heights of where they can reach, or they have done, and playing at their best of their ability. So. You have the situation. What do I do? Do I keep the same team? Do I try and get a bit of continuity into the team, or am I best making that change? Do I best play that player against that team? Is he in form? Is he out of form? Do I need to bring all sorts of things, Paul? Loads and loads of things that, as you can imagine, from my point of view, are with me 24/7.
6 pointer then tomorrow. I mean, I hate cliches like that, but do you look at it in that way?
Well, no, I want a big performance. I think a big performance will be give us a chance to produce a big result. There's all sorts of things that might go against you, like we talked about, decisions and injuries and whatever. But I'm looking for a big performance. Of course, the result is huge for us, and as you said, you ain't using that phrase or whatever. And we'll never know, will we? We'll never know until it's time to know. I think that's the best way of putting it. But it certainly doesn't help us if we don't get a result. And obviously, it gives a big advantage, and something that Slav and his team will be after just as much as what myself and my team are after.
Great, thank you.
Cheers, Paul.
Cheers, Chris. Top man, thank you.
Cheers, mate.
Doxy.
Hey, Chris.
Hi, Chris. You all right?
Yeah, good.
Just a quick one from me, mate. I think I'm right in thinking that you were in and around the team in 1991 when the team went 16 matches without a win at the start of that season. Does that give you belief that there is still time to turn it around and the first win could bring more?
Of course, I think it's something that I've talked about with an old manager of mine a couple of times in the past couple of weeks. I've had some fantastic calls from people in the game that I well respect. And obviously that situation comes to mind. First win on against Forest over Christmas. Part of that, I played in that game. A couple of wins over Christmas, and then a fabulous run into the new year. And as I've just said, realistically, us as a promoted football club is about staying in the division. So what points total that'll be, I'll not know. But you've got to stay ahead of 3 clubs, really. I'd like to stay ahead of a lot more, but I think realistically, as I've just said, every season that kicks off, there's 10 to 12 teams that would take 17th position. They might not publicly say that. The owner might not publicly say that. The owners might not my football club, because I think my owners would say that. But I think some of these established football clubs that have been at it for a long time and pumped an awful amount of money into it would say that internally. It might not be the best message that they send to the supporters, but I think from our point of view, the start that we've had, as I've talked about, I think it's fair to say and realistic and honest of me to say that that's a position that we're obviously looking to achieve and above at this stage of the season with the start that we've had, and that's got to be a target. To get into that position, you need to win some games of football, but certainly examples like that, there'll be other examples where people have wrote us off and say, that's their season done and dusted, which I understand that. It's an opinion-based game, it's a stats-based game, but there's always a chance to change an opinion, and there's always a chance to buck the trend on the stats. But that's certainly, I was part of that, and the feel of it at that time wasn't great in terms of result. But what I would say, the togetherness of the support and the players combined affected the results in and around Christmas, and obviously going forward to comfortably secure old Division 1 football, and I think you look at it from that point of view, and our point of view as the first season back in the top division under Harry was to secure another season, which obviously in that season we comfortably done. But the club is, as I've said, since '95, that little run that Harry had from that period to '95, staying in the division, has only had 2 seasons in the Premier League in 25 years. So I think I'm right to say, being realistic, it's a huge challenge that we're up against last season and this season, and I should imagine will be for a number of seasons if we manage to do the business this year.
That example just shows what a win can actually do, though, doesn't it?
I mean, everybody will have a. I've got to pick the players up. They were incredibly disappointed after the game because I think they believed that they'd done enough to get a result. And it's a cruel, harsh game. And I spoke about it afterwards, Chris, that nobody cares about Sheffield United in any decision that's made, apart from us as a group and a football club. It's cutthroat and it's ruthless and it hurts you. It hurts you at times, sometimes fairly understandable, like it maybe did at Chelsea and maybe a couple of other results, and maybe sometimes it doesn't on other results, but you have to keep bouncing back. You have to keep getting on with it. As soon as the white flag goes up, which it certainly won't do as far as I'm concerned at this football club himself and the players, but I've seen it before. As soon as the white flag goes up, you're done. So you might as well call out to the season. So it's certainly something that won't happen here under my watch.
Good luck, mate.
Cheers. Thanks, Chris.
Rob Staten.
Hey, Rob.
Hi, Chris. Do you see this as a great challenge that actually, if you could get a run going and move up the table as a group, you might even be stronger for this experience?
I think every experience you have at this level of football, there's no downside to any experience. The good parts of it, the parts that you play Man City and Liverpool and Chelsea, even though you're not getting the results that you want. Any experience for me is one that you can learn from and improve you as a player, but most importantly as a person. And players will find out about each other. They'll find out themselves in the tough times that we all have to go through, not just in football but in life. We all understand that. Everybody's going through a tough time. There's loads more people having a tougher time than me at this particular time. Even though from a personal point of view, it's rough and it's not enjoyable. But I've certainly got a bit of a fire in my belly, as you can understand, to get on with it and to turn it around. And I'm seeing that every day from the players. I'm seeing that attitude from every day. From every day I see these players. Every time they go into games, they're desperate to affect what has been an obvious disappointing start.